This is Opportunity Miami, a show about the entrepreneurs, civic leaders, and innovators who are solving the issues that will define Miami's economic future. I'm Matt Hagman. In thinking about the future here in Miami and around the world, one thing we expect to see is more people coming. Despite the recent pandemic, the flood of people coming to cities is expected to increase. Today, the World Bank says some 55% of the world's population lives in cities, and over the next 25 years, that's expected to grow to 7 in 10. But over this same period, cities, and we in Miami, will face some real challenges. Expanding economic opportunity, better ways for people to get around, and transitioning to an economy that is more sustainable and ultimately carbon neutral. REEF, a company launched here in Miami, has jumped into the middle of this with the idea of creating neighborhood hubs that include everything from super fast food delivery, package delivery, receiving healthcare, charging your electric scooter or bike, purchasing clothes, even hitching a ride on an electric helicopter. Along the way, it asserts it can help build future neighborhoods that are more livable, possess a greater sense of community, and are more sustainable. But how? We'll explore on Opportunity Miami. In 2013, a company called Park Jockey was launched with the focus of parking cars. Today it's called REEF, and it's expanded its vision from parking cars to reinventing neighborhoods. It's received backing from leading investors around the world, including SoftBank's Vision Fund, and it's expanding to cities across North America, the UK, and the Middle East. To discuss, we are joined by REEF co-founder and Senior Vice President of Product, Philippe Saint-Just. Philippe Saint-Just, welcome.
Hey Matt, thanks for having me on.
It's great to be with you. You were founded in 2013, right?
That's right.
You founded, the co-founder of the company, 2013 you launched, focusing on parking cars. And essentially now you're focused on reinventing neighborhoods. Talk about what was that light bulb moment when you sort of made that switch, realizing that, the spaces that you're working in, you could do a lot more than park cars.
Right. Well, so I think, there's a very vivid moment in my mind, and it's totally Miami based, which is when we were selling parking for Miami, the FTX Arena, which used to be called American Airlines Arena.
Sure. Yeah.
We were selling parking for those events. And this was back in the day when I was literally like taking money from people who wanted to park their cars. And the thing that amazed me was that if you park at the arena, it was, and I don't remember these prices exactly, but if you want to park at the arena, you have to be a season ticket holder, or it's going to cost you $100. If you park just across the street, it's $50. If you park 2 blocks down, it's $20. And if you park, 4 blocks down in somebody's driveway, it's $5. And that was such a vivid value of proximity. What people are willing to pay, the value that what it means to them to be close to the source of experience, the source of value that they're looking for, and that's I don't know if that one thing was what triggered us, but really, I mean, those types of experiences are what made us realize that the value of proximity could be applied to a lot more than just storing your car. And that was the beginning of our journey to seeing how we could take those assets that we did have and open them up and offer them as a service to other businesses that would also see value in proximity and in offering that to their customer.
There's been so much recently over the past year, over the past 2 years, written about REEF. And, here in Miami, we've begun to be able to touch and feel REEF and its vision, here, across the city with its ghost kitchens, with it getting food or even pop-up retailers. But as we, today's ghost kitchen on a REEF neighborhood hub could be tomorrow's health clinic, vertical farm, place that you go to charge your scooter or your electric bike, or where even to many more futuristic, maybe closer than we all realize, where you hitch a ride on an electric taxi helicopter to go across town. Talk a little bit to us about what a REEF neighborhood hub, what we should expect that it will look like a year from now, 5 years from now.
Great question. For us, what we're really focused on building is infrastructure, and it's infrastructure for the modern city. And our goal at REEF is to take real estate that is in city centers, that is in proximity to where people live and work, and open it up to really all sorts of use cases that could improve the life of people in those neighborhoods. And so it's, you can look at REEF in two different ways. You can look, as you said, at REEF as an operator of a specific type of business. So our neighborhood kitchens business or ghost kitchens business, as you mentioned, is probably the one that's getting the most news these days. And the other one is really as this platform company that is building the future of cities, where we find partners in all sorts of different verticals and give them the ability to provide their services, provide their goods in these city centers in ways that they couldn't do it before. And so right now we're in the U.S., we're in Canada. We've got restaurant operations in Europe and the Middle East. And one thing that's been really fun working at REEF is seeing how all these different use cases are being developed in all these different places of the world. And so in Miami, we have obviously our neighborhood kitchens. We also have logistics operations, so a partnership with DHL, where we provide a more neighborhood-sized way of packages being able to be delivered to consumers in a way that doesn't take up traffic, in a way that is the quality of life is improved because you don't have 18-wheelers that are going through your down the street at all times a day. And in other places, we've done things such as provide retail services where you can order like Van Leeuwen ice cream to your house, so kind of an extension of our restaurant operations, all the way to dog parks. And so we have one site in LA, for example. We partnered with a company called Dog People. They're using our platform to essentially build a business. They're calling it the Soho House for Dogs. So it's membership only dog park, but it's actually really cool and really interesting. Yeah. And we are also doing things like ride sharing partnerships. Again, there's just a mix of different opportunities you can build. If you just open up the neighborhoods and open up the cities to these entrepreneurs and these companies that want to do things, just aren't necessarily at the level of being able to put in massive investments to build up their own infrastructure.
So when we think about sort of a REEF hub, sort of in full bloom, right? What would that look like, and how far away is sort of realizing that vision?
Yeah. So we've got a whole team at REEF that focuses on what we call our physical product, and I think the best way to describe it is we essentially have three main types of physical products, three types of hubs, as you mentioned. We have what we call the dock, which is primarily for vehicles. This is a place where we cater to mobility. So where you can park your car, where you can charge your scooter, as you said, in the future, where you can hitch a ride on an air taxi. And so think of that as the parking garage 2.0, right? This is the evolution of your traditional parking operation. The next step is what we call the hub. So the hub for us is really this production and logistical facility, which is within the neighborhoods, that allows goods and services to reach out to the neighborhood. So we've got people working in these hubs. We've got people producing food in these hubs. We've got people receiving packages in these hubs and transferring them to delivery vehicles in these hubs. It's a little bit a little bit kind of in the background, right? It's this social tissue that allows the world to connect to the neighborhood. And then finally, our third product is what we call the park. And the park is where we welcome people into our product in order to experience these companies and these partners that they might not have been able to before. So the dog park in particular is really this model of the park. Now the park is an area where we've been piloting a lot of different projects recently. It's still a little bit of a work in progress. I think we've got a couple of things up our sleeves for Miami specifically. I can't talk too much about it quite yet, but we got something in store there. But I mean, our hubs, so our logistical hubs, we already have 13 in the South Florida area, and so we're here. We're in Miami. We're embedded. So now it's just basically evolving that over time and opening that up to additional partners.
And the places that you imagine seeing these, number one, of course, parking lots, going to your roots as a company, parking cars, parking garages, and this underutilized urban spaces generally. Is that the right way to think about it?
Yes and no. I think, as you pointed out, our history is deeply rooted in parking. That's where we came from. In fact, most people probably don't know this, but we have a lot of valet parking operations all over the South Florida.
Sure.
We operate parking garages, parking lots as well, that are still catering to cars and vehicles and mobility. And so that's where we started. But essentially our vision and our goal, what I mentioned, is not restricted to parking real estate. So we're starting to now branch out to other types of real estate. But ultimately, the goal is to be able to offer that real estate as a service and provide it in a way that is modular and agile so that it can, on one hand, adapt to the needs of the neighborhood, so that as the neighborhood evolves, you don't need to tear down a building and build a new one, but rather you have an approach to architecture and approach to facilities, which can evolve over time. And two, built in a way that we can adapt to the needs of our partners and our customers. So that if a partner comes to us and says, "Hey, I want to deliver or deploy or produce this type of product or this type of service within a neighborhood," we can basically build a facility for them and offer it to them as a service, so that they don't have to take huge risks at the real estate level on their side. And that's what really gives us the flexibility, and that's what really makes us attractive to our customers.
So how ubiquitous will this be? I mean, should we be thinking about, as we think around, the Miami or cities around the world over the next 2 years, the next 5 years, next 10 years, that this is like REEF hubs will be like McDonald's or Starbucks that we experience today? What should we expect?
I think obviously this company is, as one of the co-founders, this company is one of my babies. So
Sure.
I certainly wanted to succeed. But going back to our products, I think what I think will be a lot more ubiquitous is this idea of the modular real estate, the modular architecture that does adapt with the neighborhood. Now, if REEF is going to be the one providing it, all the better. But I think cities are heading in that direction. And then on the other hand, I do think our logistics product is also going to be a fixture or our hub is going to be a fixture of cities going forward. And you're going to see a lot more from us as well as others who are developing those. Again, they're going to be more in the background. You're not necessarily going to see them all the time, but that's where your packages, that's where your food, that's where your products are going to be coming to you from that neighborhood, because that is what is sustainable for a neighborhood, rather than coming from the other side of town or from let's say the airport, where then it's loaded on giant trucks that clog up the streets and ruin the quality of life of neighborhoods.
And is there a way you think about this? By that I mean, so with a hub, is it something where it's all food can be delivered within a radius of, going forward of 15 minutes, or people can walk to a health clinic, or within 5 or 10 minutes? I mean, in terms, you've talked about, and there's been lots of reporting around the whole idea of the 15-minute city and REEF really being at the heart of that. How, and when you, in setting up these hubs and setting up these urban nodes, how proximate are they?
Well, so actually, proximity is probably the word that we use the most at REEF, and we think that is such a huge macro trend, and you can phrase it in different ways. The 15-minute city is one of them, but I think what you're seeing is kind of the revival of the neighborhood, with COVID having accelerated that, but also your digital touch points are really kind of helping those neighborhoods reinvigorate themselves by allowing you to be in contact with the world without necessarily having to drive and go long distances to get what you need. Our purpose as a company has been built around the value of proximity and the best way to deliver proximity. And I think you're hinting a little bit about kind of what proximity means for something that's as perishable as food. And we think that it means everything, from the quality of the food all the way to the unit economics of how you build a sustainable business. If you're close to a customer, the how difficult it is to get food to that customer is directly tied to how far away you are. And so our neighborhood hubs are within 15 minutes of our customers. That's what that's our target. The food that gets to you is fresh. The food that gets to you is good, and it's from a network perspective, a logistics perspective. It's very easy to manage and make sustainable a network like that, rather than having drivers that drive for 60 minutes, 45 minutes, and try to crisscross the city in all sorts of different ways.
So in a lot of ways, the long-term vision is that we could see, you could be seeing a hub every few miles across the metropolitan area going forward, as these 15-minute nodes are established across the city, established here in Miami.
Absolutely. I mean, I think a good frame of reference, there's probably two good frames of reference. One is parking garages, right? I mean, the parking garage was the original proximity business. And that's because it's by definition close to where people live and work. And so we're not really reinventing anything as much as we are just extending that definition and opening it up to all sorts of different types of businesses rather than just parking your car. The other thing I think you can think of, and we've talked a lot about the food revolution these past 2 years with COVID, but the original Ghost Kitchen is Domino's Pizza, and they've been around for a long time, right? Because basically, I mean, very few people actually go and eat at a Domino's Pizza. In fact, I think most places don't even have. You
don't know where they are.
You don't know where they are. You don't know where. You can't sit down over there. But basically, Domino's is within 15 minutes of their customers, and so that's what's allowed them to build a successful business that was providing a product that people liked and improve their lives by not having to cook dinner. And so again, all we're doing is taking those basic concepts and extending them so that it's not just pizza you're getting; it's also sushi, it's also burgers, it's also all sorts of different types of food that you want whenever you want it.
And also, by extension, your model is then also built on going in lots of other areas too. How we get around, how we get healthcare, perhaps how we grow our food with vertical farming. I mean, the idea is that the extensions keep growing within these urban nodes within these 15-minute cities. Is that a fair way to think about it?
That's a great way to put it. I think again. One half of our business is this idea of a platform, and one analogy I give is if you look at the internet from the 90s, and you wanted to start an internet business, you had to do everything yourself. You had to buy servers, you had to plug them into the internet, you had to do your coding to pull up the website. Nothing was off the shelf. And now if you want to start a business, basically you go to Shopify, you get a Google Analytics account, you go to Stripe and you set up your payments. You go to some drop shipper and he will take care of your product. And you can probably do that in half a day. And so we're applying that same principle to the physical world. We're allowing companies that offer physical products, physical goods, physical experiences to be able to grow without worrying about the real estate. So we're essentially virtualizing that real estate and providing it as a service to these companies. So as you said, kitchens, retail is another big area of growth we see for us. Mobility is a very interesting area for us. I think ride sharing and scooter sharing is going to make a huge comeback as these neighborhoods return. And healthcare, which we started at the beginning of COVID, we're continuing. And originally we started as our healthcare sites were mostly focused on COVID testing. That was the need at that time, especially getting COVID tests close to where people were because they couldn't go out, they couldn't go far. And we're looking to convert those into what we call neighborhood clinics. Again, it's being able to offer a neighborhood service that bridges gaps and fills in a need that might not be addressed right now. Something in between of a primary care and an emergency clinic, a place that is focused on wellness, a place that is focused on basic healthcare, but that then can refer you to something more extensive if an emergency or something like that. But really, for us, the exciting part of REEF is building a platform and just being able to go in any direction with our partners and with our customers.
And what about now jobs? I mean, I think, and one of the challenges in cities is the enormous economic divides that we see, right? And needing more and more, in particular, entry-level jobs that have real upward economic mobility. How do you see these hubs contributing to helping with that?
Well, so one thing I like to say is and one thing that I like about REEF is that you don't need to be a developer or programmer to work for a tech company. And so a lot of our workforce are people who have skills that are not necessarily what you'd associate with the tech company. We have 3,000 chefs that work for us. We have 2,000 valet drivers that work for us, and more and more. But I think the most what's really tied to just the design of our business and the realities of our business is we are an operational business. And so in order for us to be able to deliver these experiences and products, in order to cook the food, in order to bring it to you, in order to maintain the hubs, we need to hire people. We need to create jobs. And so REEF itself is a vehicle for job creation at the local level. And that's something that we're very proud about. Just as an example, each one of our kitchens creates on average about 15 jobs within the community. And so that's a little bit kind of the opposite of what you'd expect from a tech company. But that's built into the model, and that's a reality of providing physical services to people.
Now let's talk about sustainability. I mean, clearly, as we think about cities going forward, think about the world going forward. Over the next 28 years, we're on this journey where we need to transition our economy to one that's net zero. And one of the things, we've been talking a lot, with Opportunity Miami since launching late last year is how this transition actually presents the business opportunity of our lifetime, right? In terms of this transition, creating new industries, new companies, new jobs. But it's for sure a challenge for cities around the world to achieve much, much greater sustainability and ultimately become carbon neutral. As you think about the REEF hubs, which are envisioned to be, throughout cities around the world, talk about how REEF hubs will achieve much, much higher levels of sustainability and is actually achieving net zero part of the plan?
Right. So great question. When from a kitchen's view, well, actually, just in general, I think one of the great drivers of sustainability from a ecological perspective is the electrification of our infrastructure.
Sure.
Electrification is what allows a critical mass of renewable energy to be cost effective. And so we're doing that in two ways I can think just off the top of my head. One is transforming our sites into mobility hubs, which generally involves the installation of charging stations for cars, for scooters, and kind of allowing that transition of combustion engine mobility over to electrical mobility. And then the second one was an interesting one for me. Is when we first launched, a lot of our kitchens had stoves and cooking surfaces that used propane as a source of fuel, and about I think 2 years ago we started transitioning that over to electrical equipment for the same for sustainability purposes, but also for just the ease of being able to deploy and move these kitchens around. And so most of our kitchens right now are electrical kitchens. So all the cooking surfaces are electrical. Most of our sites are plugged into the electrical grid and tied into the city. And we think that that's probably the most what's going to have the most impact on being able to transition over to renewable sources of energy.
Got it. And I would assume, just by your whole idea of proximity, the hope is you have people just not going longer distances, which contributes to wider carbon footprints for each one of us.
Yeah, that's a great point. I think it's not just the pure distance, but when you get closer, you also change your modes of transportation. So sure. You don't need a car to deliver something 10 miles anymore. Now you can have a bike that delivers 1 or 2 miles. So yes, that has a huge effect.
So, and the last thing, just community, and just want to be sure we sort of double click on this, that and how you see building community. You talk about sort of building authentic relationships in communities. And you talk about sort of it's time to move away from brick and mortar versus tech debate. Is the community that you're talking about that you want to foster and build really built on to go back to something we've talked about a lot about, but it's really at the heart of this, proximity, and that B, that you want this to be something that enables opportunity within sort of the 15 minutes around each of these hubs? Is that how you think about the ways in which the REEF hubs will try to foster a greater sense of community?
Absolutely. I mean, there's so many different ways that we can impact the community, and I think we've got a couple of different programs, and then a couple of different elements are just directly built into our product itself. I mentioned the hiring of local, creating local jobs, local staff, so people from the community actually run these hubs and make them part of the community. We also explicitly have created programs that allow us to embed a lot more deeply. So we have a neighborhood restaurant development program to reach out to restaurant operators and bring them onto our platform, help them basically do that transition from pure brick and mortar to this hybrid world of brick and mortar and digital. And we've got 9 local partners that we're onboarding right now across 3 different cities, and more to come. And then we've also specifically partnered with the city of Miami and other organizations down here on a jobs program to also really kind of educate people on what REEF has to offer, and help provide opportunities to communities that might not have had those opportunities otherwise. And for us, this is just part of the vision. It's our hubs are part of the community, service the community, and our goal is that they enhance the community.
Well, Philippe Saint-Just, thank you very much. Really appreciate the time.
Well, thank you very much, Matt. It was great talking to you.
Thank you so much. I hope you'll engage with us online and on social channels, and hope to see you next time on Opportunity Miami.